The miraculously self-manifested beautiful deity of Tirumala Devar was originally consecrated by Saluva Narasimha, the governor of Chandragiri, Chittoor district, Andhra Pradesh, in a beautiful but small temple within the confines of his palace in the year 1472. It helped him to worship the deity daily without the trouble of climbing the Tirumala hills, a routine habituated since he was in the teens. Within a short span of less than 15 years, his personal and administrative graphs showed sharp uptrend that finally resulted in his becoming the emperor of the mighty Vijayanagara kingdom in the year 1485. But the devout emperor who preferred Chandragiri to Hampi as the capital attributed all that subsequent changes in fortune to the outflowing grace of Tirumala Devar. But as the fate would have it, since the timing of the consecration went horribly wrong due to some strange happenings, it was prophesied by the learned priest that the Tirumala deity would unlikely to be in one place for more than 60 years at a stretch. And true to it, in the year 1532, the pujari of the temple, getting a premonition of an imminent attack from the Deccan Muslim sultanates of the neighborhood, removed the deity and deposited it in the nearby pond to save it from the loot and plunder. There in that temple pond, the deity was lying for about 60 years, waiting for the right time, place, and the person for his next relocation. In between that period, the fortunes of the mighty Vijayanagara Empire also was to see many ups and downs. In the year 1592, as part of their routine pilgrimage, Swami Vijayendra Tirtha of Kumbakonam Mutt, Tamil Nadu, reached Chandragiri and camped in a local mutt that was very near to a beautiful pond. The Swami was accompanied by his disciple Swami Sudhindra Tirtha. Incidentally, Swami Vijayendra Tirtha in his Purvasrama was a member of the GSBs of Vijayanagara kingdom before his being initiated into sannyas by none other than Vyasaraja, the Rajaguru of Vijayanagara Empire and made pontiff of the Kumbakonam Mutt, Tamil Nadu. It was the same Vijayendra Tirtha Swami who was also instrumental in founding Sri Kashi Mutt Samsthan, Varanasi, by initiating a GSB boy in request of the GSB members of Kochi during his Chaturmasha Vrata in 1539-40. The boy, after due training, was given sannyas in Kashi and named as Swami Yadavendra Tirtha. Later in the year 1542, Swami Yadavendra Tirtha was made the first pontiff of Kashi Mutt Samsthan, Varanasi, by the senior pontiff of Kumbakonam Mutt and given written guidance, instructions, powers, etc. for religious, spiritual administration of the GSBs of Kerala and Karnataka. During his stay in Chandragiri, one day as Swami Vijayendra Tirtha was performing his morning pujas, he had a strange visitor, a poisonous snake. The snake, far from troubling, appeared to be signaling to the Swami to follow it. Greatly surprised, the Swami got up and followed it up to the temple pond. To his great surprise, the Swami found that the snake was missing from the scene. Taking cues, the Swami asked a couple of his followers to search the water pond. During a thorough search, they could retrieve the deity of Tirumala Devar. The Swami carried the deity along with him for his daily worship till his Samadhi in 1595. Swami Sudhindra Tirtha, who succeeded Swami Vijayendra Tirtha in Kumbakonam Mutt, continued with his pilgrimage, carrying the deity of Tirumala Devar. In due course, he reached Kochi GSB temple in the year 1597. That temple already had a deity of Venkatachalapati. It was the deity the community had brought along with them from Goa while migrating in the early part of the 16th century to escape the violent inquisition or forceful conversion into Christianity started by the Portuguese and backed by the Christian missionaries headed by Francis Xavier, a priest with a criminal mindset. Seeing the dazzling beauty and magnificent aura of the deity that the Swami Sudhindra Tirtha had, Sri Malappai, a rich person and prominent member of the GSB Kochi Samaj, was highly fascinated. He appealed to the Swami for handing over that deity for his personal worship. Noticing the sincerity and devotion of Sri Malappai, the Swami reluctantly agreed for it, but under a condition that the equivalent pure gold coins needed to cover the deity in standing position should be given in exchange to him. In temples, that ritual is called Kanakabhishekam ritual, bathing of the deity with the pure gold. For a rich person like Sri Malappai, it was not an issue at all. He readily agreed to that suggestion and brought gold coins in big quantity. But he was baffled to see that the deity could not be covered with gold coins, whatever might be the number heaped on it. Sri Malappai was too intelligent to understand the significance of that strange happenings. Thoroughly humbled, he soon made an appeal to all other members of the GSB Samaj to contribute their share also for the Kanakabhisheka. As soon as the contribution came, Swami took one fistful of it and poured on the deity. To everyone's surprise, they found the deity soon covered with the gold. Pondering over the strange incident, Swami Sudhindra Tirtha later told the GSB Samaj that the strange incident signifies the divine desire of the deity to be owned up by the whole GSB Samaj of Kochi, and therefore no single individual would have any right over it. Greatly humbled, Sri Malappai soon took on himself the lead in construction of a small temple, the location of which was approximately the present western Agrashala of the TD temple, Kochi. In the new temple, deity of Tirumala Devar was consecrated for the first time in the year 1599 by Swami Sudhindra Tirtha of Kumbakonam Mutt, in the presence of thousands of Samaj members. The Swami also renamed the deity of Tirumala as Gosri Puresha and the village as Gosripuram. Till then, the village was known as Cherlai, which virtually meant a place full of slush, mud, wild habitations, etc. That place was donated by the king of Kochi to the Saraswats, which included all four sections of that community, that is Saraswata Brahmins, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas and Shudras. Their migration from Goa initially in trickles from 1312 AD because of the religious persecution by the Deccan Muslim Sultanates finally became an avalanche when the Portuguese Christian rulers started forceful conversion into Christianity in 1560 AD. When the migrant Saraswat sought the asylum of the king of Kochi, the king, after due consideration, granted it by leasing out Cherlai village for a very nominal amount, not before they had to face the hostile attitude of the Nambudiri Brahmins of Kochi, who strongly objected to the king, saying that the asylum seekers were no longer Hindus, leave alone Brahmins, as they had been defiled by contact with the Muslims and Christians of Goa. But the visionary king of Kochi rejected that argument. It is for the present generation of the GSBs to ponder over the long-term significance of the move of the king to grant asylum to the community, overriding the strong opposition from the Nambudiri Brahmins. It is necessary to note that during that period, Nambudiri Brahmins, though constituted very small in numbers, dominated the socio-religious economic scenes of Kerala. Such was their dominance and the accompanied arrogance, they had virtually strangulated Hinduism by their strange interpretation of the Smritis, the ancient social laws, by adding purely imaginative and self-promoting meanings to the slokas. Using those interpretations, the inhuman way the Nambudiris treated other sections of the Hindu society forced the many of them at the lowest rung to look elsewhere for self and social respects. It was that horrible situation Swami Vivekananda observed during his travels in Kochi Travancore areas at the end of the 19th century that forced him to condemn it with the strongest words by calling Kerala as a mental asylum. It is obvious the GSB should be careful and vigilant while taking stand or adopting public postures against other sections of the Hindus if it has even remote chances of alienating them from the main course of the Dharma. Learning lessons from the costly mistakes in the past of self or others help not to repeat those same mistakes. The mistakes of Nambudiri Brahmins to strictly apply social rules of the outdated Smritis to suit their convenience and benefits redrew the religious demography of Kerala for good. A similar mistake by the Kashmiri Pandits, Saraswat Brahmins to be precise, objecting the reconversion of a Muslim family back into Hinduism, created the seed for the problem that has been seen in that state now. Is it not time for the GSB Samaj also to ponder over its soaring relationship with other sections of the Saraswat who were with them during the most difficult phase of their life from Goa to Kochi? This is important, especially when they have so much in common, right from language, culture, social and religious festivals, belief systems, food, dress, etc. This is because on getting a cold shoulder, not so in the past, from the myopic elders of the GSB, one section of the migrant Saraswat no longer treats Konkani as their mother tongue and had already come out of the Saraswat classification. As if it is not enough, GSBs of Kochi in general and other parts of Kerala in particular hardly use their mother tongue, Konkani, for communication in between. The long-term significance of these ill-advised moves are not lost as language has been considered as the building block for formation, evolution and development of communities all over the world. Its loss or disuse usually ends up in loss of identity of that community and its salient features like culture, belief systems, social functions, dress habits, food, etc. And then finally, its very extinction. When community after community get extinct in a nation, the whole nation also disintegrates. The reverse of this rule is also true, as was proved by the Jews of Jerusalem, with whom the GSBs have so much in common to share.